Captain Velarix sat alone in the command center of her ship, the quiet dawn. The lights were dim. Most of her crew was sleeping. Only the soft hum of the engines kept her company as she ran another scan of the empty space around them. She was tired. Her species, the Volanthi, needed less sleep than most. But even she had limits. 3 months of survey work in the outer rim had worn her down. Mapping dead planets, cataloging asteroid fields. Nothing exciting. Nothing dangerous. That was about to change. The scanner made a soft sound. Velarix looked at the screen and felt her 4 hearts skip a beat. There was a ship in orbit around the small moon ahead. A big ship. A ship she recognized from her training days. From the warnings every young captain received before venturing into deep space. It was a blood-tide marauder vessel. The blood-tide were pirates, not the small-time criminals who stole cargo and ran away. These were monsters. They had been terrorizing the outer rim for 300 years. They took ships. They took crews. They left nothing behind but wreckage and silence. Velarix reached for the alarm but stopped herself. If she woke her crew now, if she made any sudden moves, the pirates might notice her. The Quiet Dawn was a survey ship. It had no weapons, no armor. If the blood-tide decided to attack, her crew would be dead before they could even scream. She began to slowly power down non-essential systems. If she could make her ship look like a dead rock drifting through space, maybe the pirates would ignore her. Maybe she could slip away. Then her scanner found something else. There was a second ship. Smaller, drifting between her position and the pirate vessel. At first, Velarix thought it was debris. The thing looked ancient. Its hull was covered in scorch marks and patches. It had no smooth curves, no elegant lines, just hard angles and brutal shapes. Like someone had built a ship out of pure stubbornness. She ran the transponder signal through her database and got an error. The format was too old. Her computer did not recognize it. She tried again, this time searching the historical archives. The kind of files no one ever looked at. The kind that contained records from before the current galactic age. The computer found a match. Velarix stared at the screen. Her blood turned cold. It was a human ship. Humans. The species that every young child learned about in history class. The species that had appeared from nowhere 2,000 years ago. Spread across 100 worlds in just a few centuries, and then vanished. The collapse of Earth, they called it. Some kind of disaster. No one knew the details anymore. The humans had simply stopped appearing. Their colonies went silent. Their ships stopped flying. For 200 years, no one had seen a living human. Most believed they were extinct. Some said they had never existed at all, that they were just a myth created to scare children. But Velarix was looking at a human ship right now. Navigator, she whispered into her communicator. Wake up. Come to the command center. Quietly. A few minutes later, a sleepy Volanthi named Korath stumbled through the door. He was young, barely past his training years, but he was good at his job. Captain, what is happening? Velarix pointed at the screen. Korath looked. His eyes went wide. Is that a blood-tide ship? Yes, but look at the other one. Korath studied the second vessel. His face showed confusion, then disbelief, then something close to fear. That transponder format, it is ancient. That is, he looked at her. That is not possible. It is a human ship, Velarix said. Somehow, impossibly, it is a human ship. They watched in silence as the pirate vessel began to move. It was heading toward the human craft. Slow, careful, like a predator stalking wounded prey. They are going to take it, Korath said. The humans. If there are any humans on that ship, the blood-tide will capture them. Velarix knew what that meant. The blood-tide did not just steal cargo. They took people. They sold them to collectors, to slave markets, to anyone who would pay. A living human would be worth a fortune. The last member of an extinct species. We should run, Korath said. We should jump to hyperspace right now. Report this to the consortium. Let them handle it. He was right. That was the smart thing to do. The safe thing. But Velarix could not stop looking at that battered human ship. It was so small. So old, it had been drifting through space for who knew how long, and now it was about to be swallowed by the most dangerous pirates in the galaxy. "Captain," Korath said, "we cannot help them. We have no weapons. I know. If the Blood Tide see us, they will take us too. I know." The pirate ship was getting closer to the human vessel. Soon it would be in weapons range. Soon it would be over. Then something happened that Velarix did not expect. The human ship moved. Its engines flared to life. Not the smooth, silent glow of modern technology. This was fire. Actual fire. Burning out of the back of the ship like a barely controlled explosion. The human vessel turned. Not away from the pirates, but toward them. "What are they doing?" Korath asked. Velarix did not answer. She was watching the human ship accelerate. It was heading straight for the Blood Tide Marauder. A tiny, ancient craft charging at a warship 100 times its size. "They are insane," Korath whispered. Maybe they were. Or maybe they were something else entirely. Velarix remembered the old stories. The ones her grandmother used to tell her. Stories about the humans from before the collapse. How they had fought wars against species 10 times more advanced. How they had won. How they had never, ever surrendered. She had always thought those stories were just legends, fairy tales, exaggerations. Now she was not so sure. The human ship was still accelerating. The pirates were responding, turning their weapons toward this unexpected threat. In a few seconds, the shooting would start. Velarix made a decision. "Korath, start recording everything. Every sensor reading. Every image. Everything. Captain, if those humans are about to die, someone should remember them." She paused. "And if they are about to do something impossible, the galaxy needs to see it." Korath nodded and began working at his console. Velarix leaned forward in her chair, her eyes fixed on the screen. The human ship was almost in range of the pirate weapons now. Any second, the Blood Tide would open fire. Any second, that brave little ship would be turned to dust. But deep in her chest, in all 4 of her hearts, Velarix felt something strange. Something she had not felt in a very long time. Hope. Commander Elena Chen had not seen another ship in 11 years. The Defiant Hope was old. Older than anyone on board. It had been built on Earth. Back when Earth still existed. Back when humanity still had a home. The ship was meant to carry colonists to a new world. 10,000 people packed into metal corridors, frozen in sleep, dreaming of green fields and blue skies. That was 200 years ago. Something had gone wrong during the journey. The faster-than-light drive had malfunctioned. Instead of arriving at their destination, the Defiant Hope had been thrown off course, sent spinning into the unknown reaches of space. By the time the crew woke up, Earth was gone. The colonies were silent. Humanity had disappeared. The original colonists had tried to find their way back. They had failed. Their children had tried. They had failed too. Now, after 7 generations of trying, only 342 people remained, born in the recycled air of a dying ship, raised on stories of a planet none of them had ever seen. Elena was the 5th commander of the Defiant Hope. She had taken the job when she was 30, after the previous commander died of a lung infection. That was 15 years ago. Now her hair was gray and her bones ached in the cold, but she still sat in the command chair every day, watching the stars drift past, hoping for something to change. Today, something changed. The alarm started screaming at 6 in the morning, ship time. Elena was already awake, drinking her small ration of synthetic coffee, when the red light started flashing. "Report," she said, walking onto the bridge. Her navigation officer, a young man named David Park, looked up from his console. His face was pale. "2 ships, Commander. Big ones. They just appeared on our sensors." Elena looked at the screen. Her heart stopped. Ships. Real ships. After all these years of nothing, of empty space and silent stars, there were actually ships out there. "Are they human?" she asked. David shook his head. "No, Commander. The designs are. I have never seen anything like them. They are alien." Alien? Elena had grown up hearing stories about the aliens her ancestors had met. Strange creatures from distant stars, Some friendly, some not. The stories always ended the same way. The humans won, no matter what. But those were just stories. The Defiant Hope had no weapons, no shields, no way to fight. What are they doing? Elena asked. One of them is moving toward us. The big one. David paused. Commander, that ship is huge. It is the size of a city. Elena studied the image on the screen. The approaching vessel was dark and angular, covered in weapons. It looked like something built for war. Something built to kill. They are sending a signal, said her communications officer, Maria Santos. I am running it through the translator. The translator was ancient, like everything else on the ship. It took almost a minute to process the alien language. When the words finally appeared on the screen, Elena felt her stomach drop. Surrender your vessel. Surrender your cargo. Surrender your crew. Resistance will result in destruction. Pirates. Even out here, in the emptiest corner of the galaxy, there were pirates. Commander, David said, there is another ship, smaller. It is trying to run away from the big one. Elena looked at the second vessel. It was tiny compared to the pirate ship. A survey craft, maybe. Something meant for exploration, not combat. It was running as fast as it could, but it was not fast enough. The pirates were gaining on it. How many people on that ship? Elena asked. David checked his readings. 47 life signs. 47. 47 people who were about to be captured by pirates. 47 lives that would be sold into slavery, or worse. Elena closed her eyes. She thought about her crew. 342 people who depended on her. People who had survived for 200 years against impossible odds. People who deserved a chance to live. If she did nothing, the pirates might ignore them. The Defiant Hope looked like a piece of junk. Maybe the pirates would think it was not worth the trouble. Maybe her people would survive, but those 47 aliens on the other ship would not. Elena opened her eyes. Battle stations, she said. The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at her. Commander, Maria said slowly. We have one working railgun. Our armor is falling apart. We cannot fight a ship that size. I know. If we attack them, they will destroy us. Maybe. David stood up from his console. Commander, please. Think about this. We have been searching for other life for 200 years. We finally found it. If we die here, humanity dies with us. Elena looked at him. He was young, scared. He had every right to be. David, she said gently, what do you think those aliens will remember about humanity? That we hid while they were taken? That we watched and did nothing? They will remember that we survived. No. Elena shook her head. They will remember that we were cowards. And I will not let humanity be remembered as cowards. She turned to the helm officer. Set an intercept course. Put us between the pirates and that other ship. Commander, do it. The helm officer hesitated for just a moment. Then she nodded and began entering commands. The Defiant Hope groaned as its ancient engines came to life. The ship began to turn, moving away from safety, moving toward danger. Elena sat down in her chair and watched the pirate vessel grow larger on the screen. It was a monster, a giant, and she was about to poke it with a stick. Charge the railgun, she said. Target their weapons systems. They will shoot back, Maria said. I know. Everyone not essential to combat operations should move to the interior sections. Seal the blast doors. Prepare for damage. Her crew began moving. Some were crying, some were praying. But they were all doing their jobs. After 200 years of running, of hiding, of just trying to survive, they finally had a chance to be something more. Elena watched the pirate ship on her screen. It had noticed them now. It was turning its weapons toward the Defiant Hope. Maria, Elena said, open a channel to that pirate ship. What should I say? Elena smiled. It was not a kind smile. Tell them that the ghosts of humanity have a message for them. She leaned forward. Tell them, we are coming. War Chief Krathvor had killed more people than he could count. He was old for his species. His scales had turned from bright red to dull gray. His claws were chipped from decades of combat. But his mind was still sharp, and his crew still feared him. That was all that mattered. The Blood-Tide clan had ruled the Outer Rim for 300 years. Other pirate groups came and went. Empires rose and fell, but the Blood-Tide remained. They were patient. They were brutal, and they never, ever lost. Krathvor had personally commanded 63 successful attacks. He had captured cargo ships, military vessels, even a consortium diplomatic cruiser once. No one had ever escaped him. No one had ever defeated him. Today was supposed to be easy. A small survey ship, alone in empty space, with no weapons and no escort. His crew would board it, take whatever was valuable, and sell the survivors to the slave markets. Simple work. Then that other ship appeared. "What is that?" Krathvor asked, pointing at the strange vessel on his screen. His sensor officer studied the readings. Unknown design, War Chief. The technology appears to be very old, possibly centuries old. A museum piece? Krathvor laughed. Some collector's toy? I am checking the historical database. The sensor officer paused. His face went pale. War Chief. According to the records, this ship matches the design profile of human vessels. The bridge went quiet. Krathvor stared at the screen. Humans. He remembered that name. His grandfather had told him stories about them. Terrible stories. Stories that kept young warriors awake at night, but that was long ago. The humans were gone now. Extinct. Dust. Impossible, Krathvor said. The humans died out 200 years ago. The records may be incomplete, War Chief. This ship is definitely using human technology. And the sensor officer checked again. There are life signs on board. Hundreds of them. Krathvor felt something cold move through his chest. He pushed it away. He was War Chief of the Blood-Tide. He did not feel fear. It does not matter, he said. Whatever they are alone and outgunned. Disable their engines. I want that ship intact. If there really are humans on board, collectors will pay a fortune for them. His weapons officer began targeting the human vessel. Plasma batteries charged with a low hum. The pirate ship turned, bringing its guns to bear on the ancient craft. Then the human ship fired. Krathvor did not see the shot. It was too fast. One moment, his forward shields were at full power. The next moment, they were gone. A solid piece of metal, accelerated to impossible speed, punched through his ship like it was made of paper. It tore through 3 decks before finally stopping somewhere in the engine section. Alarms screamed. Damage reports flooded the screens. Crew members shouted in confusion and terror. What was that? Krathvor roared. A railgun, War Chief. They fired a solid projectile at us. A railgun. Krathvor knew about railguns. They were primitive weapons, ancient. No civilized species had used them in centuries. Modern shields were designed to stop energy weapons, plasma bolts, laser beams. No one bothered to defend against simple pieces of metal anymore. No one, except humans. The second shot hit before Krathvor could give any orders. This one struck his primary weapons array. Plasma batteries exploded. Fire spread through the forward section. 50 crew members died in an instant. Return fire, Krathvor screamed. All weapons, destroy them. His remaining batteries opened up. Plasma bolts streaked across space and slammed into the human ship. Armor plating melted. Hull breaches appeared. Atmosphere vented into the void, but the human ship did not stop. It did not turn. It did not run. It was accelerating, heading straight for him. They are increasing speed, War Chief. I can see that. What are they doing? His tactical officer stared at the screen with wide eyes. They are attempting to ram us. Krathvor felt his blood freeze. The stories, his grandfather's stories. The old tales that every blood-tide warrior heard as a child. There was a reason the galaxy had feared humans. It was not their technology. It was not their numbers. It was their minds. The way they thought. The things they were willing to do. Humans did not calculate odds. They did not weigh costs and benefits. When they decided to fight, they fought until there was nothing left. They would strap explosives to their own ships and fly into enemy formations. They would ram their vessels into targets 10 times their size. They would sacrifice everything just to take their enemies with them. The other species of the galaxy fought to win. Humans fought to make sure their enemies lost, even if it meant losing themselves. "Evasive maneuvers," Krathvor shouted. "Get us away from them." His helmsman scrambled to obey. The massive pirate ship began to turn, its engines straining against the laws of physics. The human ship kept coming. It was on fire now. Half its systems were dead. Another railgun shot screamed through space. This one missed, but only barely. Krathvor heard the metal slug pass by his ship like the whisper of death itself. "We need to retreat, War Chief," his second officer said. Retreat. Krathvor had never retreated. In 63 attacks, he had never once run from a fight, but he had also never fought humans before. He looked at the damage reports. 2 major hull breaches, primary weapons destroyed, engines operating at 60%, and that burning human ship was still coming, still getting closer, still refusing to die. "War Chief, what are your orders?" Krathvor made his decision. "All ships, retreat, jump to hyperspace, now." His crew stared at him. "Now." They obeyed. The massive pirate vessel turned away from the human ship and began charging its faster-than-light engines. Around them, the smaller blood-tide escorts did the same. As the hyperspace window opened, Krathvor took one last look at the human vessel. It was barely holding together. Fires burned across its hull. Debris trailed behind it like blood from a wound, but it was still flying, still fighting, still refusing to surrender. Krathvor had conquered 63 ships in his career. He had killed thousands of people. He had never known fear. Today, he learned, the hyperspace window swallowed his ship, and the blood tide fled. Far behind them, the defiant hope drifted in the silence of space. Battered and broken, but victorious. And somewhere on its damaged bridge, Commander Elena Chen allowed herself to smile. They had done it. Against all odds, against all logic, against everything the universe had thrown at them. They had won. The silence after the battle was worse than the fighting. Elena stood on the bridge of the Defiant Hope and looked at the damage. Half the consoles were dark. Sparks flew from broken wires. The main viewing screen was cracked, showing the stars through a web of shattered glass. But they were alive. The pirates were gone. And somewhere out there, that small alien ship was safe. "Damage report," Elena said. Her engineer, a tired old man named Robert Kim, spoke from the doorway. His face was covered in soot, and his hands were shaking. "It is bad, Commander. Really bad." "Tell me." Robert took a deep breath. "Port engine is completely destroyed. Starboard engine is running at 20%. Life support is failing in sections 3 through 7. We have lost pressure in the forward compartments." He paused. "And the reactor containment is damaged. We have maybe 20 minutes before it fails completely." Elena closed her eyes. She had known this might happen. When she gave the order to attack, she knew the price might be their lives. She had made peace with that. But 20 minutes. That was not enough time to fix anything. Not enough time to save anyone. "How many did we lose?" she asked quietly. 30 people, Commander. Maybe more. We are still counting. 30 people. 30 lives ended in the space of a few minutes. 30 families destroyed. Elena opened her eyes and looked at the stars. They seemed cold now, distant, uncaring. "Commander." Maria Santos was still at her communications station, even though half her equipment was destroyed. "The alien ship, the one we saved, they jumped to faster than light before the pirates retreated." "Good," Elena said. "At least they got away. They might send help." Elena shook her head. "We do not have time to wait for help. Even if they wanted to come back, they would never reach us before the reactor fails." The bridge was silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. This was the end. After 200 years of surviving, after generations of hoping and fighting and refusing to give up, humanity's story was about to end in a flash of nuclear fire. "Commander." David Park's voice was weak. He was sitting on the floor, holding a bandage against his side. He had been hurt during the battle but had refused to leave his post. What do we do now? Elena looked at her crew. There were only a handful of them left on the bridge. Young faces, old faces, all of them scared, all of them looking to her for answers. She did not have any answers. She had made her choice, and now they were all going to pay for it, but she could not tell them that. Not now. Not at the end. Maria, Elena said, can you still broadcast a signal? Yes, Commander. Some of our transmitters are still working. Then start broadcasting. Everything. Our location. Our situation. Who we are. What we did. Elena straightened her shoulders. If anyone is out there, I want them to know what happened here. I want them to know that humans still exist, that we fought, that we did not surrender. Maria nodded and began working at her damaged console. Everyone else, Elena continued, move to the central compartments. That is where we have the best chance of surviving if the reactor fails. Take the wounded. Take the children. Take everyone. Commander, Robert said, even if we survive the reactor explosion, we will not have life support for long. A few hours at most. Then we have a few hours to hope for a miracle. Elena looked at him. We have survived for 200 years on hope, Robert. We are not giving up now. Her crew began moving, slowly, painfully. Some of them had to be carried, but they moved. Elena stayed on the bridge. Someone had to keep broadcasting. Someone had to make sure the galaxy knew what had happened here. She sat down in her command chair and looked at the cracked viewing screen. The stars were still there, still shining, still indifferent. Commander. David had not left. He was still sitting on the floor, still bleeding, still watching her. Do you think anyone will hear us? Elena thought about all the stories she had heard growing up. Stories about Earth, stories about the colonies, stories about all the humans who had lived and died before her. None of them had expected to be forgotten. All of them had hoped that someone would remember. I do not know, Elena said honestly. But we have to try. That is what humans do. We try. David was quiet for a moment. Then he asked the question she had been dreading. Was it worth it? Attacking those pirates? Saving those aliens? Was it worth everything we lost? Elena did not answer immediately. She thought about the 30 people who had died. She thought about the 300 who might die soon. She thought about 200 years of struggle and sacrifice. Then she thought about that small alien ship. 47 lives. 47 people who would have been captured, enslaved, destroyed. They were safe now. They were free. Yes, Elena said finally. It was worth it. Why? Because that is who we are. Elena looked at the stars. Humans do not survive by hiding. We do not survive by looking away when others need help. We survive by being the kind of people worth saving. She paused. If we had let those aliens die just to protect ourselves, we would not deserve to survive. David was quiet again. Then, slowly, he nodded. I understand, Commander. Good. Elena smiled at him. It was a tired smile, but a real one. Now go to the central compartments with the others. I will keep broadcasting. What about you? Someone has to stay here. Someone has to make sure our story gets told. David hesitated. He wanted to argue. He wanted to stay with her. But he was too weak, and he knew she was right. Good luck, Commander. Good luck, David. He left. Elena was alone on the bridge now, just her and the stars and the steady hum of the damaged ship. She looked at the clock. 15 minutes until the reactor failed. 15 minutes until the end. Elena Chen, 5th Commander of the Defiant Hope, leaned back in her chair and began to speak. This is Commander Elena Chen of the human vessel Defiant Hope. We are the last survivors of Earth. We have been drifting through space for 200 years. Today, we encountered pirates attacking an alien ship. We chose to fight. We drove the pirates away. But our ship is damaged beyond repair. We are dying. We can't. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. To whoever hears this message, please know that we did not regret our choice. We saved 47 lives today. That is worth more than anything. That is worth everything. The stars twinkled in the darkness, cold and silent and eternal. "Remember us," Elena said softly. "Remember that humans were here. Remember that we fought. Remember that we never gave up." The broadcast continued, repeating her words over and over again, sending them out into the infinite darkness of space. And Elena waited for the end. Captain Valerix had never pushed her engines so hard. The quiet dawn screamed through hyperspace, its systems straining beyond their limits. Warning lights flashed on every console. The hull groaned under the pressure, but Valerix did not slow down. She could not slow down. The human distress signal was still playing on her speakers. That woman's voice, Commander Chen, calm and steady even as she described her own death. "Remember us. Remember that humans were here." Valerix remembered. She remembered watching that ancient ship charge at the pirates. She remembered the railgun shots that tore through the blood-tide vessel. She remembered the moment when the most feared pirates in the galaxy turned and ran. She had escaped during the battle. When the shooting started, she had ordered her crew to jump to safety. It was the smart thing to do. The sensible thing. Now she felt sick with shame. "Captain," Korath said from his console, "we are receiving updates from Consortium Command. They want us to report to the nearest station for debriefing." "Ignore them." "Captain," I said, "ignore them." Valerix did not take her eyes off the navigation display. "Set a course back to the battle site." "Said?" Korath stared at her. "You want to go back? To where the pirates were? The pirates are gone. The humans drove them away." Valerix finally looked at him. "And now the humans are dying, because they saved us. But Captain, our ship is damaged too. We do not have the equipment for a rescue mission. I do not care." Valerix stood up from her chair. "Those humans had nothing. A broken ship. One working weapon. No hope. And they still fought for us. They are still fighting." She pointed at the speakers, where Commander Chen's voice continued its endless broadcast. "Listen to her. She is not asking for help. She is just asking to be remembered." Korath was silent. "I am not going to let them be forgotten," Valerix said. "I am going back. Anyone who wants to stay behind can take an escape pod." No one moved. No one spoke. Then, slowly, Korath turned back to his console. "Setting a course back to the battle site," he said quietly. Valerix nodded. "And start broadcasting. Every frequency, every channel. Tell everyone what happened here. Tell them the humans are alive. Tell them they need help." For the next hour, Valerix watched her crew work. They sent messages to every ship in range. They contacted the Consortium, the Trade Alliance, even some independent colonies. They told the story over and over again. A human ship appeared from nowhere. It attacked a blood-tide warship. It won. At first, no one believed them. Humans were extinct. Humans were a legend. Humans could not possibly still exist. But then the sensor recordings started spreading. Images of the Defiant Hope charging into battle. Videos of the railgun shots tearing through the pirate vessel. Audio of Commander Chen's calm voice ordering the attack. Suddenly, everyone believed. By the time the quiet dawn dropped out of hyperspace near the battle site, 12 other ships had already arrived. Medical frigates, cargo vessels, even a small military cruiser that had been passing through the sector. They had all heard the story. They had all come to help, and in the center of them all, dark and silent and barely holding together, was the Defiant Hope. "Life signs?" Valerix asked. Her sensor officer checked the readings, then checked them again. His voice was shaking when he answered. 312 life signs, Captain. They are alive. They are all still alive." Valerix felt tears running down her face. She did not try to stop them. Begin rescue operations. Get those people off that ship. The next few hours were chaos. Shuttles flew back and forth between the human vessel and the rescue ships. Medical teams rushed to treat the wounded. Engineers worked to stabilize the Defiant Hope before its reactor finally failed. Valerix watched it all from her bridge, feeling something she had not felt in a very long time. Pride. The last human was evacuated just 6 minutes before the reactor containment collapsed. It was Commander Chen herself. She had refused to leave until everyone else was safe. She had stayed on her dying ship until the very last moment, still broadcasting, still telling her story. When the rescue shuttle brought her aboard the Quiet Dawn, Velarix went to meet her personally. Commander Chen looked terrible. Her uniform was burned. Her face was covered in cuts and bruises. She could barely stand, but her eyes were clear. And when she saw Velarix, she smiled. "Thank you," she said, "for coming back." Velarix shook her head. "You saved my ship. You saved my crew. I should be thanking you. You do not owe us anything. We made our choice." "Yes." Velarix stepped closer. "And your choice reminded us of something we had forgotten." She paused, searching for the right words. "We thought humans were extinct. We thought you were just a legend. A story from the old days." Commander Chen laughed softly. "We thought the same thing about the rest of the galaxy. We thought we were alone. You were never alone." Velarix reached out and took the human's hand. It felt strange, different, but also familiar, somehow, like meeting an old friend for the first time. "And you will never be alone again." Over the next few days, the story of the Defiant Hope spread across the galaxy. Everyone heard about the human ship that had appeared from nowhere. Everyone saw the recordings of the battle. Everyone listened to Commander Chen's final broadcast. "Remember us. Remember that humans were here." The galaxy remembered. Ships came from every corner of civilized space. Scientists who wanted to study the humans. Diplomats who wanted to negotiate. Historians who wanted to learn. Ordinary people who just wanted to see if the legends were true. The consortium offered the human survivors a new planet, a place where they could rebuild, a place where they could start again. Commander Chen accepted. But before she left, she gave one final message to the galaxy. "We spent 200 years thinking we were the last humans alive. We spent 200 years just trying to survive. But survival is not enough." It was never enough. She looked at the cameras, at the millions of aliens watching her from across the stars. "Today, we learned that we are not alone. Today, we learned that the galaxy still remembers humanity, and we are grateful." She paused. "But we want you to remember something else too. We did not come back just to survive. We came back to be the kind of people worth remembering." "We haven't beat her?" She smiled. It was a tired smile, but full of hope. "Humans are not just a legend. We are here. We are real. And we are not going anywhere." The broadcast ended, but the story did not. Across the galaxy, people talked about the humans. They told stories about the Defiant Hope. They wondered what humanity would do next. And somewhere on a small transport ship heading toward a new world, Commander Elena Chen looked out at the stars and felt, for the first time in her life, that she was finally home. Not because she had found a planet, not because she was safe, but because she had found something better. She had found hope, real hope. The kind that does not come from running away, or hiding, or just surviving. The kind that comes from standing up for what is right, no matter the cost. That was what it meant to be human. That was what it had always meant. And the galaxy would never forget it again.